Audio Unleashed. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the weirdest encounter I had the other day at the Y. A guy came up to me like in the locker room and was like, "I was listening to you, man." And I was like, this is awkward. Like, what? I thought he meant like he was like eavesdropping on a conversation I had with like the lifeguard or something. And he pointed at his head. He's wearing bone conduction headphones. And he's like, "I was listening to your podcast while I was swimming."
No shit.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And he recognized you.
Well, no, I had told him about our podcast a long time back. So he knew about. A lot of people around the Y know that I've got a podcast, but it was just so weird for him to be like, "I was listening to you," and I didn't think of the podcast at first. I thought he was being creepy. Yeah. So anyway, just normal dude swimming at the Y, listening to Audio Unleashed. Man, how about that?
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, let's make a new episode for him, buddy.
Let's do it.
You know what? You did this to me a few episodes ago, so I'm going to do it to you. We're going to talk about a story that you wrote for Wirecutter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a story by Mr. Brent Butterworth, Why I Bought My First New CD Player in 25 Years. Spoiler warning, folks. I knew this was coming. Like I'd been talking to you about this, and I think we actually talked about this article in a previous episode, but I just thought it was a really cool story. And I want to talk to you about it, talk to you about your experiences, talk to you about some of the retail implications of all of this. And I guess return to the question of, are CDs back? Which is a question we've asked before without a really satisfying answer. But I don't know if we'll have a more satisfying answer this time, but maybe we'll have something approaching a little bit more of a definitive answer.
We have a little more data.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you want to talk about, bud?
I want to talk about, actually, we were going to talk about these new Siltec high-end cables, which I can't remember what they're called. I don't care. But, they have like
Master Crown.
Okay, whatever. And they have like a 2 meter XLR cable for $114,000. And this is just, But then you ruined everything.
As I do.
By dropping in onto the vision board here, this Stereophile column by Martin Collins called An AudioQuest Cable Loom, where he quote unquote reviews a whole bunch of AudioQuest cables. And I was kind of like, I kind of knew Martin Collins was writing for Stereophile again. And I believe he was one of the founders of Monitor Audio. He wrote a good book called High Performance Loudspeakers back in, I don't know, 1990 or something. And he's, reviewed stuff for Stereophile, hasn't been in there for decades, but now he's back in. And they've given him a new column called Columns on Cables. This is the first installment besides, the introduction. And boy, I read it. I was just like, oh my God, what has happened to Stereophile? It's one of the, I don't want to say it's misleading. It has this real intellectual, quasi-scientific kind of vibe to it, but it's really, when you really dig into it, it's just, it's used car sales at best. It's not even that. Yeah. That's because, the used car might actually run. Might actually do something. These things he's selling, not reporting on, selling are, unlikely to have a significant improvement. But we're going to dig deep into it, dig into the technical aspects. There's actually a patent that he cites that I dug into, which I don't know if he did. I did. And, we're going to dig deep and really, I'm going to try to control myself, and you're going to try to push me to not control myself.
What, me?
Yeah.
I don't instigate. What are you accusing me of?
I know. But then we're going to talk about something that will not get me incensed, but will amuse me.
Yeah.
What's that?
we're going to talk about a video that you put in the idea board from our buddy Steve Guttenberg, the audiophiliac. Now, his headline was a little different from yours. His headline was Zoo Method. Does it compare with KEF LS50 Meta? Your headline was Zoo Audio finally makes a real speaker?
With a question mark at the end.
With a question mark. I'm sorry, I thought I pronounced the question mark. But anyway, yeah, this is a speaker review from Steve about this new Method bookshelf speaker, which is a little bit of a different transducer from Zoo than we're used to. Steve does his review, does his comparison, as his headline indicates. But I thought we would take a little bit more of an analytical approach to the speaker and the review. And I'm going to be listening a lot and learning a lot. But I got a few opinions, especially with regard to... well, it's technically not a crossover per se, but the filtering. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into that, what it means, and So what are we going to do for patrons this week?
I actually saw a post by Sean Olive, the arguably the world's most famous or second most famous audio scientist. I was actually, I should have said, I was going to say most famous still working audio scientist, but Floyd Toole kind of is still working and still writing. And Sean Olive is actually now sort of retired from Harman. And well, not sort of, he's retired from Harman, but I think he's still wants to do stuff. But anyway, I saw this post and it's titled, it's referring to a YouTube video called DCA's, and that's Dan Clark Audio, DCA's Best Open Back? Noir X Open Review from headphones.com. And Sean is pointing out that, these guys are trying new measurement methods where they're sticking, insert microphones into their ears and then running measurements that way. And that incorporates the characteristics of their own ears rather than the ear cheek simulator that most people use. They're using the ear cheek simulator as well, but it raises a lot of interesting questions. And that's that, questions about the philosophy of measurement and whether, why you should do it and what you should do and what you should not do. And also questions about, headphone voicing in the year 2025 when we are, God, how many years are we past the Harman research? Are we getting close to 10? I think we're getting close to 10.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't they start that in 2012 or am I just misremembering completely?
They kind of wrapped it up in the mid to late 2010s, right?
Yeah.
And and they haven't done any new research to my knowledge in several years. So people are starting to kind of pile onto that research and kind of make their own suggestions and things like that. And I want to talk about how valid that is and how important it is or not important, and just the whole approach to reviewing that headphones.com is taking on this, and kind of just dig in deep on what makes any kind of sense in this day and age.
Cool.
Is that okay?
Yeah. You sound Dennis, a little different. Yeah, bud.
I was just going to say, why do I sound so crappy?
Well, as to whether or not you sound crappy, that's completely up to you because you're mixing, mastering, and editing this one, aren't you? Or are we going to swap because you're out of town? I think I just spoiled it. You're out of town. Where are you?
I'm in Houston, Texas.
So you're what, your brother's attic right now or something like that? Testing USB mics?
Would I be in an attic in Houston in the summer?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a very good point. No,
I'm in his TV room, actually, which is the most absorbent, acoustically absorbent room in the house. And so anyway, I'm testing. I stupidly didn't bring my normal microphone in. I bought another microphone to test for Wirecutter, and it's not working out too well. So, oh well. What are you going to do?
You sound fine. I can hear you. That's all that really matters. Okay. You need me to edit this one?
Yeah, I need you to edit it.
All right, cool. You can double up next time. It's all good. But we'll worry about that later. For now, I want to talk about this Wirecutter story you did. Why I bought my first new CD player in 25 years. My goodness, that's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
The first thing I wanted to ask you is why did you gravitate toward portable CD players? Like, I mean, were you specifically looking at a portable CD player, or is this just the one you sort of ended up with? Like, what process led you to this model specifically? And do you want to talk about what the model is?
Yes. It's a Ciatron R300. It's about 89. It was $89 back when you could still buy them. Here's the thing. I wanted a CD player. And the reason why is because I go to people's gigs now and I buy the CD just to support the band, because quite often the band makes almost nothing on touring nowadays. But if you buy a CD, the CD probably costs them, I don't know what they're recording. It costs what you want to spend to record and mix and master a CD. But, the actual pressing is, buck something a CD usually. And so if you buy a $10 CD, they're making some money. And so I just do it to support them, but I'm kind of like, I'd like to listen to these things. And I didn't have a CD player. I had a Blu-ray player, but it had a coaxial digital output. I didn't have anything that took that. I have a 15-year-old computer with a CD-ROM drive built into it. Laptop. And I was ripping those into MP3 and then putting them on Google Drive and then downloading them from Google Drive onto my phone. And I was just like, God, this is stupid. So anyway, I found this CD player, and it's a quasi-portable. I mean, it's technically portable, but it is clearly not made to survive rough handling. And the cover over the CD doesn't latch. So but it's the size of a portable, and it has a rechargeable battery, which is a convenience because you don't have to plug it in. But the biggest thing for me is it has a Bluetooth transmitter. And, everything has Bluetooth nowadays. Everything from, cheap headphones, that are, $20 or $30 up to, Dan D'Agostino master audio systems preamps that cost God knows what, 50 grand or something, right? So I thought that's cool. And, Bluetooth does add compression, but, it's not a major loss of fidelity. And I'm like, well, this will be fine. And I've always got tons of Bluetooth speakers, tons of sound bars. I've always got some Bluetooth headphones around. And I thought, well, this way I can actually listen to these CDs. And so I started searching around, and Facebook very helpfully popped up with a bunch of ads for these things I was searching for, of course. and this one, I saw this one, and we just tested a Ciatron. Ciatron's kind of a new brand from China. As far as I know, they're new. We just tested one of their record players for Wirecutter. It was really good. So I thought, well, they seem kind of credible. So I bought this thing, and I just completely love it. It's so perfect for today's sort of use, because you could bring it in your car if you want to and hook it up with Bluetooth to your car. It hooks up to all these devices that I'm testing for Wirecutter and that I use on a day-to-day basis. And it works, and the product works great. There are no operational issues that I found with the product. It pairs pretty easily with stuff. And it does have a optical digital audio output. So you can hook it up to a stereo system and get full fidelity out of it if you want to. It's got a headphone jack in the front, so you can use it as a portable if you want to. But to me, it's like $89 was just such a great deal, just so I can go buy. And, I have to add, I went to last time I was in New York a couple months ago, my friend David Aaron, great New York-based jazz / avant-garde / R&B sax player, took me to a place called Downtown Music Gallery down around Chinatown in Manhattan. And the store had, I don't remember if they had any vinyl at all. They had just had tons of CDs. And it was all jazz, avant-garde, indie punk, all kind of stuff like that. And I just went wild. I just bought a bunch of stuff. And the owner had his own record label, and he had his own, and great artists. He had a recording I'd never heard of with John Zorn and Julian Lage. And it was just like burning, man. And so I just bought a bunch of stuff there. And
cool.
I'm just like, I got to get a CD player. And I did. And I'm really super happy with this. Now, I got to say, we had an immediate problem at Wirecutter, though.
Because it sold out?
Sold out in the first day the article posted. I shouldn't reveal our data, but I'll just put it. I saw the number. I can actually see the number of product clicks. If I go digging, I never looked. This is the first time I ever looked in God knows how long I've been in Wirecutter. And I was shocked at the number of product clicks that people to buy it. I mean, I was just like, really? I didn't think anybody would care. Yeah. I was sitting here thinking, well, it's nice that they let me indulge myself by writing this article, but they're not going to make any money on it. And but gosh, it just sold out instantly. I did test another. I kind of thought, like, is there anything else I can get? And so there's stuff on Amazon that I found, but I got one of them, and it was just such a piece of junk. Yeah. And you couldn't even, like, the bottom letters of the alphanumeric display were kind of cut off by the way the display was mounted in the plastic, so you couldn't see some of it.
Wow.
And it was, and the Bluetooth pairing, I got it to pair once. I never got it to pair with anything else ever again. It was a real hunk of junk. It was like $35-$40, but boy. But anyway, so this thing is supposed to come back around July 10th.
In a new form, it seems. Really? Like the version that you're linking to from Wirecutter, or that the Wirecutter team is linking to, is all white plastic. So you sort of lose that wood look, and it's just like, it kind of looks like an original PlayStation, to be honest with you. Just a little, like a sort of creamy colored original PlayStation.
So I have to say, when I first saw this, it was kind of a white thing with some sort of pastel, maybe purple and blue and kind of reddish pink buttons and stuff. And that's the version I wanted. Oh. But then that one disappeared, and all that was available was this fake wood grain version. So I bought it. But I also found they have like a Japanese anime-inspired version. It's on eBay. But it's like $120 on eBay. And plus it's shipping from China. So who knows what the tariff's going to be.
No kidding indeed.
Yeah. So we will see. I don't know. I sure hope there's some way to buy this thing for $89.
Yeah. No. Well, if you go on Amazon now, it says $89.99, but it will be delivered between July 29 and August 8. So, boy, you're gonna have to wait for it. But yeah.
Oh boy, they did switch to the white plastic version. Yeah. So this is the fourth version of this that I've seen. They're all the same, just the color schemes change.
Yeah.
I like this version too. It's good. It's actually kind of cooler than the wood grain.
I kind of like the wood grain. That's the one I would want if I got one of these. But you know me, I like fake wood. So
I did not know that about you. But
I love like the NADC 3050, and it's just like, it looks like it's got wood, a cabinet, but it's just a vinyl wrap, The limited edition had real wood, but the mass market version is just a vinyl wrap. And I'm like, yeah, that actually kind of looks better. So I like fake wood. I grew up in the 80s, man. Well, late 70s, early 80s, like fake wood, vinyl, veneers, all of that. That's just like childhood to me. I almost like want a station wagon with that on the side.
Yeah. God, I remember those. Did you see the other thing that I linked to though? Because like right when this article came out, the Shanling EC0T portable CD player.
Yeah, that is crazy looking.
Yeah, I got a press release on this right when we were sitting there at Wirecutter frantically trying to figure out what to do about this thing selling out, because we actually care whether or not you can buy the things that we write about.
Yeah, of course.
Most of these people don't. But this thing looks really cool. Now it's $649, but it's got some kind of, it's got some of these little tiny, I think it's originally a military tube, and they're about an inch and a half long. It's a Jan 64118 tube. They're about an inch and a half long and maybe a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch in diameter. And, they're just buffering the tube. Yeah. But it says it has 8 hours of battery life, which, with tubes, that's pretty good.
Wow.
And it looks really cool. Like it's really, and it's got Bluetooth, it's got line outs, it's got 3.5 and 4.4 millimeter headphone outputs. So, balanced headphone output. And it also can function as a USB DAC. It's a really nice product. I mean, I bet it's great. I have not tried it, obviously. But,
and it's crazy. It's like 6 times, more than 6 times as expensive. And I'm still looking at this going, that's a pretty darn good price for a really good CD player,
It really is.
I wouldn't balk at paying, what are you getting for that $650? Is it necessarily are you going to hear the difference? I don't know. I mean, it's got aptX adaptive. So if you're connecting via Bluetooth, maybe. If you got really nice headphones, maybe. But I think there's something to be said just for the fit and finish of this thing and the design. It looks cool. I'm digging the display. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can use it more for portable because it actually clamps the CD in place. And I didn't point out that the Ciatron, I kind of flipped it all over the place and I could not get it to skip because it was buffered. It had about a 3-second buffer in it.
Nice.
But this is a beautiful product. So if somebody's making a $650 portable CD player, which is something I don't think ever existed before, that suggests that there's a lot of interest in CD. And this is a thing. I'm happy about it, and I've just realized I really do like going through. I don't, to me, vinyl is just too much of a pain. But CDs, I can go to the used record store and start flipping through the racks. Some of it's most of these record stores. Like I go to, there's one up in Bellingham, Washington. I go to. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but they have a lot of used CDs. They have used vinyls, and you can just go flip through the jazz section and find stuff you've never heard of, and you can get it for $1 or $2. But then you can also go support bands by buying their. And one band that you could support is Siger and Butterworth, the jazz duo.
Shameless plug. I love that you snuck a photo of the CD in here. That's awesome marketing. Love it.
I know. Well, actually, Terry Landry, who's my friend who shot the photos, said and who's a sort of semi-professional photographer, in addition to being a great sax player, he sent me an email that said, "Finally, I got a picture in the New York Times."
Nice. So, it's funny, getting back to the question of are CDs making a comeback? Actually, Doug Schneider, founder of Soundstage, asked me last autumn to write a story, are CDs making a comeback? And for that story, I talked pretty extensively to Travis, the owner of Village Green Records here in Montgomery, because, he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on. And at the time he had, he was setting up a shelf for used CDs and things like that. And I asked him and is is it really a comeback? And he's like, look, I make it available for people and it's affordable, but I don't know how much effort I'm going to put into this. Since then, he's just dedicated an entire room of the shop to use CDs, right? So in the course of 6 months, we've gone from, I don't know, to, we need a whole room for this. So there's something to it. There's something in the air. Folks are buying it. If folks weren't in his shop spending money on CDs and asking for CDs, he wouldn't have gone through the effort. So it says something to me.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about this one, buddy?
No, buy my CD. Kidding. I'd rather you buy the download because then I don't have to do anything.
Wow. You are exceedingly lazy. I love it.
I am. Hey, man, I got to drive to the post office to mail those things.
Oh, poor thing. Your life is hard.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so let's take a break.
It's about to get harder.
Why is that?
Because we have to talk about a column that has sapped my will to live.
Oh no!
Give it up. It's really brought my faith in humanity down a few notches.
That's saying a lot, man.
Pretty bad,
That is because you didn't have a lot of faith in humanity to begin with.
Nah, this definitely brought me down a notch.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a break and get some water, and we'll come back and see if we can demoralize our listeners a little and sap some of their faith in humanity.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
All right. All right. We'll be right back.
All right. Okay, we're back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
And we're going to talk about a column that bothered me quite a bit.
I'm sorry I bothered you, buddy.
Yeah, this was just supposed to be us making fun of a high-end audio company that's selling just preposterously priced cables. But then you added this thing from Stereophile. And I read it, and it was just like, it was just so appalling to me because I think the writer actually put out a good book about speakers like 30 years ago. I mean, it's outdated now, but it was a good book when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Martin Collins. He's a British guy, and as far as I know, I think he was one of the co-founders of Monitor Audio.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So this particular column, which is the second in this series, is called Columns on Cables. Snappy alliteration. Oh, boy. And so he got a full loom of cables from AudioQuest. And a loom, what high-end audio people mean when they mean a loom is like that's all your cables in your system are from this particular brand. So they call it a loom. Mm-hmm. Because they're trying to glamorize it, right? Yeah. And we're going to see a lot more examples of that as we go on here. They want to make something that's just basically sort of a functional product sound more glamorous and exciting. So a full loom of cables sounds like,
like
kind
a murder
of exciting.
Of crows,
What's that?
I guess. Like a murder of crows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When it's just, okay, fine, if that's what you want to call it, but it's just a bunch of crows.
Do you know what you call two crows, by the way?
No.
An attempted murder.
Oh, how funny.
Sorry, that's my dad joke for the week.
Yeah, dubbing your snare drum sound here. So these cables that he tested were pretty expensive, and what would you expect? And but I just kept running into things that were. I had to keep posting them into our vision board because they were. I just didn't want to forget how ridiculous this stuff was, and. He's talking about, so this was a great statement, just starting out. The moderate polarization. So like a lot of people, a few cable companies, AudioQuest puts a thing that puts a mild DC polarization to the insulator or dielectric, whatever you want to call it, part of the cable, which is supposed to do something. Anyway, it says, I'm quoting here, the moderate polarization applied to the insulator portion of the cable is said to linearize the charge distribution inherent to the cable conductors with a potential increase in signal clarity.
What?
So,
yeah, I don't.
So I am said to be able to jump 6 feet high. With a potential to go to 30 feet.
Many people are saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so, it's like it's so bogus. He just qualifies this thing so much. It's said to linearize. You can measure all these things.
Yeah.
With a potential increase in signal clarity. Measure it or do blind listening tests that show it. This is so simple to do. And yet they have to make all these claims that could be charitably described as specious.
I I wanted to ask you for clarification on something that I don't understand, and maybe you understand this. Like later, just a little bit below that, he says the polarization is entirely static, no current is drawn, and the electrical field is constant. Each cable has a test button with an LED indicator. The relevant patents jointly cite blah blah blah. So I was like, wait, what is it? What does the test button do? What is this LED indicator for? And nowhere in this did he talk about it. So I went looking, like trying to find the answer to that. And it turns out the LED indicator and test button are for the battery for this 72 volt DC biasing system. So I don't know why he couldn't have explained that, but like, okay, if you've got a battery for this thing and you need a test indicator to see whether the battery is still working, what does he mean by no current is drawn? What I'm very confused, Brent. Do you have any clarity for me here?
Well, the battery, apparently the battery is hooked up to such a high impedance that there's effectively no current running through. There's just charge, right?
Okay, I got you.
And so
sense.
Basically it's sort of like somebody decided to hook up a battery to something that doesn't conduct electricity and just decided, oh, it sounds better, right? Other people have done this. I mean, Synergistic Research, one of our favorite cable brands here on Audio
Unleashed.
I think they pioneered this technique. It may have some merit in, fairly exotic RF applications. I don't know. Does it have any merit on speaker cables? I'd say, yeah, probably not. Probably
maybe
not.
Maybe if you had just like insanely long runs in sort of more of a public environment or something like that. Maybe like if you're wiring up a discotheque, do they still have those these days? I don't know.
I'm told, yes.
Okay.
No, there's it doesn't do anything. I can't figure out what it does, and if these people actually posted a plausible explanation, that would help. So the problem's on them, not on us. I mean,
yeah.
So I just wanted, there were other funny phrases. The cable's made of solid 10% silver, which is another, as he explains further, this is just a fancy word for silver plated. It's silver plated copper. Why don't you just say it's silver plated copper instead of solid 10% silver? What it is solid 90% copper. It's copper. Okay. And then they start saying that AudioQuest designs are based on non-twisted conductors, which is like, your inductance will be lower, but inductance is really not an issue in audio cables, and not in any kind of non-extreme situation. And yet then they talk about their Cat 7 cables, which are shielded, of course, in twisted pair.
But they're not actually Cat 7.
Well, they're Cat 5, but they have Cat 7 connectors.
No, it's the opposite, I think, because it's the connectors that they're not used, because the Cat 7 uses a proprietary connector. And this is basically just using the same connector as like a Cat 5, Cat 5e, Cat 6. But the cables themselves meet the critical specifications for Cat 7. So it's like, what? Why? Why?
I don't know.
It's so weird.
But, so it goes, so he has his original column where he started this whole mess. And this was just this is what really pushed my level of disdain even higher, because he talks about how, and I've written about this too, how speaker cables can slightly change the sound of a speaker, because the cable might be, a half an ohm of total impedance, and the speaker might be 8 ohms, and the output impedance of the amp might be a 1/10 of an ohm, or a 20th of an ohm, something like that. And So technically, this can, a more resistive speaker cable or less resistive speaker cable can have a slightly different sound. That's just resistance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've measured the inductance and the capacitance of these cables. And the only thing I can find in all my cable testing that I did for stupidabout.com, which is now lifewire.com and equally stupid. And well, they rewrote my cable article by some guy who does network cabling and didn't know what he was talking about. Anyway,
yeah.
When I did tests, I did really good electrical tests on these things. And I found that, they could alter the sound of a speaker under pretty extreme situations. Like if you compare a pretty skinny cable to a pretty fat cable,
Mm-hmm.
You can actually measure a difference in the frequency response of the speaker. Typically, it'll be like a small rise or a small dip or something like that.
Mm.
But you don't know if it's better or worse. And it doesn't tie into the price of the cable at all. It ties into the resistance of the cable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so if you want less resistance, you could just double up on your lamp cord or something, right?
Yeah.
So he does talk about that, and he's correct about that. But then he gets the next paragraph, he just starts to get way, way out there because he starts to talk about, of course, RF. And he talks about how, our now instead of just radio, we have all these things. We have mobile phones, we have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whatever. And it fills the space around our systems with a haze of high frequency noise, which has the potential to influence how our systems, cable or wireless, sound. And it doesn't have the potential. Prove to me it has the potential. Explain to me how it has the potential. Don't just say it has the potential. Explain it to me, right? Because I've already shown, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have the potential. And he gets into, this is where I really just started to go off my rocker here. So he goes into some research that a guy named, Stereophile can't decide how to spell his name. It's Robert Grodzinski or Robert Grodzinski. They spelled it two ways in the same sentence.
Yeah.
What kind of man edits Stereophile these days? Does anybody? Anyway, it talks about this guy who I had not heard of. And apparently he made audio gear back in like the 70s or something, right? And fine, normal audio gear. But he talks about how this guy, way back in their era of tubes, did research and he found that powerful AM radio stations could, leak into audio electronics and somehow degrade sound quality with a loss of resolution, blah, 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 blah. On occasion, his systems audibly demodulated broadcasts. And what that means is like, if you will refer to one of the best sources of scientific information we've ever had, and that's Gilligan's Island. Where the
Not
episode
season
where
one, though. Not season one, because they did the professor wrong. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is one of the ones, one of the later ones. And Gilligan had like bumped his head and knocked one of his fillings loose, and it made his mouth into a radio receiver. Okay. So it's like these systems are audibly demodulating broadcasts. Well, I guess you could if you had a suitable something that would be an antenna, which I guess could be an AC line or something. And, it's like a crystal radio. It's just, diode across it. But of course, is that really a problem? And, by the way, that's AM, that's amplitude modulated. Okay. That's why you can demodulate it with a diode, right? With everything Martin Collins is talking about, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all this stuff is much higher frequency, right? AM is 540 kilohertz to 1.6 megahertz, whereas, we're talking 2.4 gig to 5.6 gig. And so not an issue. And then he talks about his patented research into how to mitigate this interference is relevant today. But Stereophile actually quoted, actually linked to his patent. And his patent has, first of all, I don't know what they do in England, but you can't patent, to my knowledge, you can't patent research in America. You patent a product.
Right.
There may be research that supports a patent, but you can't patent the research. Okay, so I went and looked at the patent. The patent mentions research. It does not cite any research. It's the same as this Martin Collins thing. It just says, "Oh, there was this research that research shows that blah 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 and blah 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 blah." There's no citations, no nothing, no data, no nothing at all. They just say, "Oh, it's loss of resolution and transparency and blah 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 blah." And the patent is just for like 2 chokes in parallel with the speaker input. That's it. Okay. And so, what a choke does, a choke passes DC and blocks high frequencies, right? Or passes low frequencies, blocks high frequencies. So, well, if you think that RF is a problem going into your speaker, well, this would block it. Yeah. Except, how many speakers, if this is so prescient, this is just so great, this is such a great discovery, how come no speakers use this today? Not, at least none I've ever taken apart, and I've taken apart a lot. It's just so ridiculous. And then, am I just ranting here?
You are ranting, but I'm here for it, buddy. You keep going.
Okay, you know what really made me the maddest, though?
I'm hoping it's the thing that made me the maddest.
There's two things. Number one, he says, knock on a live microphone cable and you'll likely hear a bang from the speaker. Has this guy ever used a microphone? I mean, this is just, I'm sorry. This is stupid. Martin Collins, if you're listening, this is stupid. Go actually hook up a PA, dude. I mean, or go try to make a recording. When you knock, as someone pointed out in the comments section, when you knock a cable, if the cable's connected to the microphone element will pick up that mechanical shock. Mm-hmm. Okay? Has nothing to do with the cable's electrical properties, okay?
Yeah.
The cable is not being microphonic. The microphone is being microphonic.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I hook up PAs all the time, all right? And for music gigs, for events and things. And people step on our microphone cables all the time. Nothing happens. So I'm like, how does this guy not know this? Does nobody at Stereophile know how a PA works?
Well, my question is, do they understand how networking works, man? Because I think the networking stuff is even more nonsensical,
Please elaborate. Give me a break.
Well, he talks about the AQ vodka cable and talks about a blind test he did with this with his friend Charlie, or test subject Charlie. Yeah. Charlie Palmer, audio enthusiast, who is part of his air quotes panel, and those are his air quotes, not mine, right? But anyway, he just changed the Ethernet cable from whatever his standard is, this Blue Jeans Cat 6E cable, to this crazy expensive AudioQuest cable. And he said, for this test, I had blinded my invited subject, Charlie. He had no clue as to which wire was present in which domain, indeed, of whether I had made any substitution at all. He'd previously mentioned this dude's very familiar with his reference system. He goes on, he found the effect of the Ethernet cable substitution as compelling as I did. The sound quality was significantly improved in all the desired respects: clarity, retrieval of detail, swing, pace, image depth, dynamics, and focus. How could you have any clue how packetized data are delivered over a network and think there is any validity to that whatsoever? I mean, it would be like,
you couldn't.
I mean, I have a little bit of a thing for pens. Like, I really, really like a nice pen, especially when I'm inking a drawing or something like that. And there's a brand of pen that I love called Odo. And they're very similar to like the Sakura pens that you're probably familiar with, but I like the Odo pens a lot more. They're smoother, they're more controllable. To me, they're worth the money. But you and I have talked before about how like timing is the key to comedy, right? Imagine if we had a conversation and you said, oh, Dennis wrote a joke on 2 pieces of paper. He wrote the same joke. and he used the Sakura pen on one piece of paper and the Odo pen on the other piece of paper. And he put them in separate envelopes and mailed them across the country to me. And when I opened, I could immediately tell which one was the Odo pen because it preserved the timing of his joke better. That makes as much sense as saying that this Ethernet cable is going to have any effect whatsoever on detail retrieval, swing pace, image depth, dynamics, and focus. It's just those claims are equally preposterous. Now, I think most people could hear the thing about the pens and go, like, how could a different pen convey the timing of a written joke? If you understand how packetized data is delivered over a network, you would realize this is every bit as much nonsense.
Yeah. But Dennis, are your feet tapping unconsciously in time to the performance?
No, and also I haven't heard it. So there you go.
Well, this is one of his measures of, whether or not cables are getting the job done is, are your feet tapping unconsciously in time to the performance? But like, I was listening to a JBL Go 4 little Bluetooth speaker that's the size of a fat cigarette pack. And this morning, and my feet were tapping unconsciously in time to the performance of, it was a Shakti, one of the John McLaughlin Shakti things. But I guess that must have been because the internal cabling in this $40 Bluetooth speaker was non-twisted and 10% solid silver. But you know what really made me mad, though?
There's just no telling with you. Lay it on me.
Here's the thing is, I can sit here and say, people can say ridiculous things. God knows so much high-end audio writing is just this ridiculous nonsense. It's just sales. But then this is the thing that really upset me. He's talking about how difficult it can be to hear, how subtle the things can be. And here's a sentence. What's more, a dealer needs excellent field craft to reliably demonstrate the sometimes elusive benefits that can come from cable substitutions.
I'd never really encountered this word fieldcraft before.
It's a military term that means basically, you're good at aiming a gun, keeping yourself hidden, keeping yourself supplied, stuff like that. The stuff that a soldier needs to do to survive and be effective on the battlefield. Okay. And yes, you could apply the term to other things, right? But applying it to stereo sales. Okay. I will demonstrate to you what excellent fieldcraft is to demonstrate cable. Here's what you do. It's really difficult. And this comes to me from our old pal, Steve Guttenberg, who was a stereo salesman for a long time. You tell people what they're going to hear. You play it for them. And then you say, did you hear that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the excellent fieldcraft. So there you go. There you go. That's all you need to do.
Right.
So fieldcraft is just stereo salesman BS. That's what he means by fieldcraft.
Wow.
It's like he's just trying to glamorize old-fashioned stereo salesmanship. Okay? Yeah. And it's just so gross to me. It's just slimy, in my opinion. It really is. It really is just slimy and awful and shameless.
Yeah. But it's funny to me, like the comments section of the Stereophile article is, it's par for the course for Stereophile these days, because there are people coming in saying reasonable, sensible things. And then there are people flying off the handle, comparing people to, flat earthers if they demand a bit of evidence. These people are claiming, I can hear the difference in an Ethernet cable. If you can't, that's your problem. I'm not quoting anybody directly here, but it's that sort of thing. It is something you and I've talked about before. It is, I have superpowers. I can hear things that normal mortals cannot hear. Yeah. So I have to have these, multi-$1,000 audio cable. And if you're fine with good enough, that's okay. You go over and play with your cute little, affordable hi-fi system. But those of us with discernment and taste, we need these expensive cables. It's just, it's frustrating. It's nonsense. But I guess if you've paid money for one of these things, then you're probably going to find a way to justify it other than just, I like nice things and this is pretty,
That was just fine. But there's a lot of priceless comments on this Stereophile. One guy says, double blind testing. Those tests are done for something as trivial as medicine and surgery, but audio is too important to leave to double blind testing.
Oh, that's perfect. Wait a minute. Here's the question. Are you familiar with that? With that commenter, I want to know, is that sarcasm or not? Because we've gotten into Poe's law territory.
I'm sure
here.
It is.
If there's not a smiley face, it's impossible to tell parody from fundamentalism, basically.
No, that's because come on, trivial is medicine and surgery. He's clearly just really ranking these people out. And one guy, my sentiment is best summed up as. One guy comments, and the comment just says, "What does it say that this made it through?" It does make one wonder if anyone's home. Wow. Come on, they know better than this.
They do.
This is a publication that supposedly is speaking on is acting on behalf of its readers, but boy. Yeah. They are really, really, really not.
Yeah.
Really not.
And the thing that frustrates me most about it is a thing that you and I have talked about a lot lately, this sort of quasi-scientific approach. They are appropriating the language and at least the descriptive methodology of a truly scientific approach. He talks about blind testing and things like that, but it's like, I don't know if they're trying to undermine the validity of blind testing, or if they just think, well, if we claim we did blind testing, then the science people can't say anything,
Right.
And it's like, yeah, we can. We can question whether you actually did that or not, or whether it was repeatable. One guy blind just, going, oh, yes, I hear the difference and it's all the things that matter. Okay, but what happens if you put that in front of a panel? Or what happens if you don't make a change and he still hears something? They want the gotcha of the scientific process, but they don't actually want to do the work because in my opinion, I don't think it would be unreasonable to accuse them of maybe being scared of seeing the results of an actual scientific test of this stuff.
Oh, absolutely not. And honestly, they've seen the results of the scientific test of this stuff.
Yeah,
that's why I think they make up so much of this, or they cite mysterious kind of ooky research from 40 years ago, 50 years ago by some guy, where the research was not documented in any way I could find. It was just it was mentioned. But you have to, if you're going to mention research that can actually be found, and where it's documented. That's the thing, is Martin Collins supposedly did this blind test, but it's not really documented how he did it. This is not hard to document, but they don't document it, right? These people ought to. I know at least one person at Stereophile knows better.
At least two, in my opinion. But yeah,
I'd say too, but oh well.
Anyway, anything more you want to say about this one before we move on and start talking about Zoo?
I've ranted enough. I've said what I had to say.
Yeah,
I'm just sad. I'm sad because I admire this publication so much, and it played such a giant role in my development as a reviewer. And to see them publish this kind of stuff, and the readers obviously are disappointed as well.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. A couple of weeks ago, I was hanging out with my dad, and we were in his back porch, which is sort of a covered deck. And he has a terrier mix named Rosie, and he loves to whip her up into a frenzy. And there are lots of deer that go behind my dad's property, and they'll even cross over into the yard sometimes, jump the fence, and like go to the pond and get a drink. And my dad will always go get him, Rosie, go get him. And she'll get all worked up and tear down the stairs. And last time he did it, he kind of looked at me a little sheepishly, a little guiltily, like, am I a bad person? And I looked at him and I went, Pop, I do the same thing with Brent. So I love whipping you up into a frenzy. But anyway, for now, much like Rosie, we need to take a break and get a drink of water.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right.
We'll be right
We're mellowing
out for the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right.
Well, not bye. Whatever.
Not bye. Yeah. All right. We'll be right back.
So, you ready to go to the zoo?
I'm ready to go to the zoo. I love it. You know what? I'm going to say that's our intro. We're not going to do the whole Audio Unleashed thing. Why gild the lily, man? Let's just start talking about this video. It's good stuff.
Well, it's Steve Guttenberg, friend of the pod, friend of us personally. And, someone who, I mean, you could probably say he's on the other side of audio reviewing from us, but,
I think so.
He's also one of my best friends in this industry. So,
yeah.
But anyway, he posted, I look at I don't listen to all of his things because some of them are stuff that I'm not particularly curious about. But like, I saw this and it's like, oh my God, there's a new Zoo audio speaker and they finally made a real speaker. And by a real speaker, I mean, and this is the way that speaker cognoscenti, speaker designers and the more measurement-oriented reviewers talk. When they say a real speaker, that means a two-way or three-way speaker with, reasonably high-order crossovers that can be assumed to work reasonably well. Okay, in other words, a speaker that's made just with the bare minimum of adherence to science and physics. Okay?
Yeah. So designed by someone who has at least heard of Vance Dickinson,
Yeah, sure. And so Zoo Audio has been kicking around for about 20 years. And I actually like them as a company. I think their speakers look cool.
Yeah.
If you go to an audio show and they're there, go catch their demo. It's always good. They play great music. I generally don't like the sound of their speakers because they are really idiosyncratic. So what they have been known for using is a full range driver, typically big, typically more like a 10-inch full range driver, right? With a whizzer cone in the middle, to kind of that serves as a sort of quasi mid-range tweeter and broadens the dispersion a little bit. And then they have a tweeter on top of it, right? And the full range driver runs, like I said, full range, and the tweeter just adds a little high frequency stuff and kind of broadens the dispersion, right? And I think one thing we have to say here is the bigger the speaker, the narrower the dispersion at high frequencies, okay?
The bigger the transducer. No, you're not talking about the cabinet.
Right. Thank you. The bigger the transducer. So like a big woofer, if you run at full range, it's going to start to beam at higher frequencies, and it's going to start to sound like this, kind of, right? It sounds like you're singing through cupped hands. But anyway, this company makes cool speakers. They have great finishes. They look cool.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, if you like them, that's fine. Steve Guttenberg has loved them from day one. And he reviewed them for me for Home Entertainment Magazine. I was so excited to get them in. And I think I bummed a pair of them from Zoo Audio just because I'm like, because they didn't have good photography, but just as much because I wanted to hear them.
Yeah.
And I listened to them like, oh boy, I didn't like them at all. But Steve loves them, just raves about them. So whatever, I know people that love them. you know what? It's music still comes out of them. If you like them, you like them. Anyway, so all their speakers to date have had some variance of this, big full range driver with a whizzer cone plus a tweeter. And they've had a couple with a couple more drivers and things like that. But this is their basic concept. And so Steve's video, though, showed a smaller one with an 8-inch woofer that has a concentric tweeter, right? So the tweeter's inside the woofer. Mm-hmm. And I saw that, and it kind of reminded me of like a Kef LS50, right? Mm-hmm. Which is also has,
it reminded Steve of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminded Steve of that too, because that's what his title of the video was. And so I was like, oh my God, they finally decided to make what I call a real speaker. But like, the more I dug in, the more I'm like, oh no, they didn't make a real speaker. So what they did is they put a tweeter inside this 8-inch woofer, but the 8-inch woofer runs full range. There's no crossover on it other than the woofer's own natural roll off at high frequencies, right?
Right.
And the tweeter has what appears to be a third order high pass filter, 18 dB per octave at 5 kilohertz.
5K, yeah.
Yeah. Boy. So basically the woofer's handling everything up to 5K because, 3-pole filter is pretty steep. The woofer's basically handling everything up to 5K, more or less. And then they're both contributing above 5K. Mm-hmm. And so at least, the tweeter's in the middle of the woofer, so they're not really going to interfere with each other the way it would if a tweeter was on top of the woofer, right? Because the sound emanates from two different places, and you get phase cancellations and what they call comb filter effects, right?
Right.
But in this case, you're not going to get that. However, the 8-inch woofer, I'm going to do some math on my phone. I can just kind of guess it. You can figure out where a speaker is going to start to beam, where it's going to start to have more of a flashlight kind of effect rather than a broad dispersion, right? Mm-hmm. You take the diameter or the effective diameter of the driver and in inches, and you divide the speed of sound in inches by the driver, and you get the frequency at which it starts to beam, which I think for 8-inch, I figured this, for an 8-inch woofer, it's got about a 7-inch effective radiating area. So it's going to start to beam. So between 2 kilohertz and 5 kilohertz, this thing's going to be very directional. And that's fine. You're getting the sound if you're on axis, but the sound is not spreading into the room. So it's not having that nice big ambient sort of sound that you want. It's got more of a cupped hands thing where the sound's shooting straight at you. And then once you hit this tweeter, the sound's going to disperse more. I've measured things like this. And if somebody likes the sound, that's fine. Again, cool company, cool speakers, cool finishes. There's lots of, I'd kind of rather people buy cool stuff like this sometimes than boring black boxes. Yeah, 2000, 2 kilohertz or so is about right. It's like 1933 or something. But, but still, it's like I kind of would like to see what would happen if Zoo just made a normal speaker and called it our, I don't know, throw it in the towel speaker or something. But I would kind of, and someone could get a hold of this thing and put a real crossover in it, which basically the crossover on the tweeter, well, it's too high, but you could put a crossover in this thing. I don't know what this tweeter would handle, but you could put, symmetrical second order crossover with the phase flipped on the tweeter at 2.5 kilohertz. And this thing would probably sound good.
Yeah.
It worked like an LS. It would be much like a Kef LS50 then.
Yeah.
And I can almost hear the Zoo audio guys saying, why should we copy an LS50 when Kef already makes that speaker? And, point taken.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's a good point. There's something to be said for standing out, doing something different.
That's true. But, why should we build jet airliners with, 2 engines mounted on nacelles under the wings? pilots. I mean, well, because that's what works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's planes look the same now.
Yeah.
And, a normal speaker with a woofer and a tweeter is the speaker that works.
Yeah.
And a crossover and an actual crossover. So that, But, I'd really like to see, this pair number one should go to Danny Ritchie.
Yeah.
That would make for an extremely entertaining video. So if anybody bought these, please send them to Danny Ritchie.
Yeah.
We would be thrilled. We would be so happy if you did that. It'd be a great video. He'd probably get the thing working good,
Yeah.
And we get to see what the original measurements are, because probably nobody's going to measure this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, or I mean, someone could send it to Aaron and he could measure it, but he won't fix it. He'll just be like, oh. He'll just be disappointed. Danny will be disappointed, but he'll try to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least from Aaron, we can figure out whether it's EQable or not. So
it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
As he would tell you, just from looking at it, and people who know how speakers work can look at the thing and look at the specs and tell you whether or not it's going to work. And he would take one look at it and look at the way they did the crosser and go like, no, it's not going to work. Yep. But he'd probably love to measure it. Because, it's more fun to measure stuff that's got problems than it is to measure stuff that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are like the NASCAR fans of audio, man. You love the train wrecks. So, yeah.
We really are. But at least Danny fixes them. With Danny, there's always the story's always got a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, anyway, that feels like a pretty good place to put a happy ending on this episode, buddy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, let's do. I feel good. I got my rage out. I'm glad it's over. I had to do this. It's like going to the dentist. It's like getting a root canal. You got to do it. But it feels better after.
I'm not sure how I feel about that comparison.
What?
You're comparing a conversation with me to going to the dentist?
No, I'm comparing reading Martin Collins' columns to root canals.
Thank you. Okay. That makes more sense. I'm with you. So anyway, as we already spoiled in the introduction, I'm going to be mixing and mastering and editing this one again. And because you're on vacation, technically.
I'm not on vacation. I work.
Oh, that's.
I work from anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you were not at home. You were not in your normal environment.
I was not in my normal environment. Yeah.
You're not in your editing suite, man. Which is what, your kitchen table?
No, no, usually my couch.
Nice. Very nice.
Or Starbucks.
Yeah. I'm going to use music yet again from our friend Michael Gaughn, whom we lost a few weeks ago. And I'll refer you back to previous episodes. You're talking about that music and why he did it. And so we're going to use a few tunes from him, except not right now. The music that you're hearing right now, this is by Mr. Brent Butterworth. This is called Clunky.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other credits we need to do?
That's all. Patreon segment coming up for Patreon people.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Patreon people, I'm going to be opening up questions soon on our Patreon page for our upcoming Ask Us Anything video. We're doing another one. So,
good.
If you've got burning questions and you're not a patron, we'll give you a week or two to go sign up for $3 and ask us a question, and then you can cancel or whatever after. But yeah, we'll be doing that soon. So I guess that's it for most people. So we say thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate you. But patrons, stick around. We got one more for you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked what you heard and wish there'd been a little bit more of it, we got some good news for you.
Indeed, we do. If you check out patreon.com/the Audio Unleashed, all one word, you can get new episodes a little earlier than everybody else.
And sometimes it's like a day or two early. Sometimes it's nearly a week. We never really know until we start editing.
But the big plus is that you get extended cuts of every episode. And usually that's going to mean a whole extra segment that's about maybe a geekier topic or something that's a little more personal to us or something that's just going to really appeal to the hardcore Audio Unleashed listener.
Yeah, what it boils down to is if you're somebody who would support Audio Unleashed on Patreon, we're going to make sure the bonuses to every episode are really aimed straight at your interests.
Yeah, and so if you want to hear these segments, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 a month, which is less than I spend every single day on my cup of coffee when I go to Starbucks to write my boring articles.
Yeah. One more time with that URL, that's patreon.com/Audio Unleashed.
Or Audio
Unleashed. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.